In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, welcome into Eye on Retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with Matt Goolsby of Market Advisory Group. And Matt, if you follow some of the talking heads, radio, TV, you'll hear them say that people don't necessarily need an investment advisor. What say you?
I can certainly see where they're coming from. I mean, when you see that typically a financial advisor will not help with tax planning or not have the resources in-house to help with that and not help with the estate planning resources as well in-house, and if they're just staying in a buy and hold strategy, I can see definitely where they're coming from as far as why pay someone any fees or any commissions to help that person with their retirement, because if they're just in that buy and hold strategy and riding along with the ups and downs in the market, I don't think they're wrong, but we think that there's more to it than just the investments. There's also the tax component side, the income planning side, the Medicare advice side, and the estate planning side. And if those components aren't being looked at collaborative, in a collaborative way and cohesive, then someone's probably missing out. But you'll hear those talking heads say, well, go invest in a low-cost ETF in the index, and whatever index you're following, it might return 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% average over X amount of years. But unfortunately, the stock market doesn't return that way in a compound fashion. One year it might be up 20%, the next year it might be down 10%. But on average, if you take that as an average, that's an average of 10%. But oftentimes, if you'll look and see what that does to your imbalance, it's not the same. I'll do a little easier example here. If you start with $100,000 and in the first year you lose half of it, you now have $50,000. Well, you could say, well, Matt, I lost 50%. I need 50% now to get back to even. No, actually, since you have less money there, you need 100% rate of return to get back to even, because a 50% return on $50,000 is just $25,000. And oftentimes when people have had to take the beating that they had when the market's down that way and they've lost that much money, that's when they should maybe look at getting a little more aggressive, but it's very hard to do that because they've taken that beating, and we're so emotional as human beings with our money. And if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a rules-based approach, if you're not looking at it from that standpoint, you're going to be costing yourself money and maybe even opportunity. Then you factor in the tax consequences, because most people have saved in accounts like IRAs and 401ks that have never had the taxes paid on them. They're missing out on that. So when those talking heads on TV or radio, even though we're talking heads on radio and TV right now, when they're saying you don't need a financial advisor, you might want to look into that more, because if you're just paying someone to just not give you the tax advice, not help you with that overall plan, yeah, you're overpaying for incomplete advice.
When we talk about the fees that an investment advisor charges, they're pretty much the same, straight across the board at about 1.5%. The difference with Market Advisory Group is you're able to help people plan for some of those ups and downs and strategize to where they're maximizing the retirement benefit.
That's true. When we find we're helping most people that are either nearing retirement or in retirement, they probably don't need to be taking all the market risk. Now, that doesn't say that they need to be missing out on when the market's in a giving mood either. We want to make sure there's opportunities to sometimes be more aggressive, and there's sometimes opportunities where or situations where you want to be a little more conservative. We will typically use, not always, but typically use a tactical managed portfolio to help people take advantage when the market's in a giving mood, and we justify that fee by we're helping people either avoid the cliffs when the market just sinks to the bottom, or when the market's off to the races, we can reallocate them or maybe reposition them into a way where they can take advantage of those high years. I mean, the indexes have performed something crazy over the past couple of years. There's been years with 30% plus, 20% plus. Those are probably not regular occurrences there. But if your advisors had you so conservative where you're not getting those returns, you might be missing out. But on the flip side, with the pandemic, when the S&P 500 lost almost 40% of its value over almost a month, that sent people into a panic when the lockdowns. So there's times where you want to be maybe more conservative, or maybe even sometimes out of the market, and there's sometimes where you want to be taking advantage of those opportunities when the market's in a giving mood.
You know, cruise control is a great thing on a vehicle. Autopilot's great on an aircraft. But when it comes to managing your portfolio, especially as you near retirement, it pays to have somebody that's going to work for you, not only in just the investment quadrant.
I can't say it any better myself. You say it so well there, because again, with the tax implications, most people that have financial advisors, they can't give the tax advice. And I mentioned how if you have an IRA or a 401k, you've not had any taxes paid on that money. And do you think taxes are going up or down in the future, Rick?
Oh, definitely up.
Yeah, and so we view that as a challenge there, because a lot of people haven't planned for that risk in their plan. They're just kind of going along and thinking there's nothing to do, or maybe they're unaware that there is something they can do. Our tax department, it does a fantastic job of helping people every year look and see is a Roth conversion right for them. And a Roth is a very different kind of retirement account. And maybe we should talk about that later, and maybe in the next segment, but that's something we think everyone should at least be taking a look at.
Strategizing is key, and cruise control, if you will, might have been good at one point in your life, but as you near retirement or are in retirement, a person can't really afford the fumbles.
That's so true. I met with a couple just the other day. They were self-managers, so they were do-it-yourselfers. They'd managed their investments for their most of their life, and now that they're nearing retirement, they looked at me and said, "Matt, this money's kind of been fake money to us, and now that we're approaching retirement and we know that we're going to need this nest egg, this money's becoming so much more real to us in a different way than it never has." And they want to go on trips and they want to go hiking where maybe they don't get cell phone signal or they can't be near it. So that's why they've engaged us. And we're also helping them with the tax component with our tax department at Market Tax Services.
Matt, how can people reach you?
That's a great question, and we're happy to meet with people one-on-one here in our office. You can call right now. We're standing by to take your call. It's 316-252-8707, or you can go to ionretirement.com and schedule a complimentary consultation right there, where we can get our tax professionals in the same room, financial advisors, estate planning attorney, and even our Medicare advisors to make sure people are getting a complete plan.
And we'll be back with more Ion Retirement.
My name is Chris Sawyer.
My name is Scott Wells.
I chose to serve my country because I am aware of just how lucky we are to have our freedoms.
I chose to serve to help provide a better life for my son.
Growing up as a kid, I had relatives that were in the military and spoke highly of it and thought it'd be a really good career choice for me.
I was a kid out of high school with not necessarily any VOTEC or any credentials that would have been useful to get a decent paying job with benefits.
Being a 17-year-old kid who just graduated from high school and then 2 weeks later went to boot camp just because I was ready to get started.
I had a huge desire to serve the country as well as providing for my son. I've always been a server and I've always been a giver.
Spent 4 years in the United States Navy and traveled the world, grew up, just a lot of great experiences that I'll never forget.
Where I was stationed and where I was working underneath the commanding general, there was nothing accepted less than perfect.
I believe one of the reasons they looked to hire me here at Market Advisory Group was because of my military background. A lot of military are known to be very meticulous, and they're able to wake up early and get the job done.
We were exact and precise in everything we did, whether it was cleaning the wall or mopping the floor or typing up correspondence. It was nothing but the best. I brought that with me here.
And because of that experience in the military, that's helped me to come on board to Market Advisory Group and give that same diligence, that same hard work, that same honor.
I really do want to make sure that our clients are getting exactly what we tell them they can have and what they can get and what they can accomplish.
And get it done correctly to where they're happy, which then in return makes me happy, and then everybody wins.
I was proud to serve my country.
And I'm extremely proud to serve our clients.
At Market Advisory Group, we don't just help vets with their retirement, they're also a part of our family.
Hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with Matt Goolsby of Market Advisory Group. And we're talking now about required minimum distributions. It's something, if a person has inherited a traditional IRA, they're probably already aware of. Once a year, there has to be a certain amount of money taken out. But required minimum distributions can actually kind of be a time bomb for those that are approaching retirement, because a lot of people don't know that once you reach that certain age, then also a required amount of money needs to come out.
That's true, Rick. I mean, so a lot of financial advisors we find when we are meeting with people are not educating people and forecasting what these RMDs could be in the future. And we mentioned and had a little bit of a giggle with it. We don't think taxes are going down. We think taxes are probably going up. So today is the cheapest day you can do something about that future tax time bomb there, that, like you said, and plan for it. And that's one of the things our CPAs and our tax department help people with, and they take a look at. And like I mentioned in the previous segment, it's not for everyone, but I at least think everyone should look at what it's going to cost them. And a Roth is a separate kind of retirement account versus an IRA. Yes, it's a Roth IRA, but it's a different kind. Roth, you didn't get the tax deduction when you put money into it. You don't have to pay taxes on it as it hopefully grows over time. But once you're over the age 59 and a half and it's set there for 5 years, there's no income taxes on the withdrawal or the growth. There's no taxes due on your Social Security. It doesn't impact how much you might cost for your Medicare premiums, and we probably need to visit that in a later segment. It's not taxable to whoever you leave it to either. So as we see taxes going sky high in the future, we think people need to be looking at this at least as one option. There's other options you can do as well. But a Roth conversion is just where you take money out of the account that hasn't had the taxes paid on it, pay the taxes today, and again, let it sit there for 5 years, and once you're over the age of 59 and a half, you have a tax-free pot of money. And when we can start having multiple pots of money to help people with in retirement, maybe we take some from the Roth, maybe we take some from the traditional IRA along with your Social Security, and it starts allowing us to control more of your tax situation. And that's what our tax department is so good at doing, helping people have those multiple pots of money, and it controls more levers for the income tax purposes.
Now, for somebody converting a traditional IRA to a Roth, can they still stay invested in those mutual funds or investment options that they're in?
Absolutely. You can't commingle the money, so you'd have to open another account. But we have a lot of clients that we help and people that we've met with that have their Roth invested the same way they do their IRA. Now, again, you can't have them in the same account, but you could have the investments in the same things. Sometimes that's not always an appropriate thing, though. But when you're looking at that, it's something that's important for people to know, because some people might be so fond of whatever investment vehicle or investment tool they're using, and fine, we can help them do that as well.
And with the money that's converted into that Roth, not only will there not be tax liability after a certain amount of time, but it's going to continue to grow. And no matter the increase in growth, you're still not liable for those taxes on it.
Well, I wish I could guarantee that growth, but yes, hopefully as it does grow over time, you don't owe the income taxes on that withdrawal. A lot of people are confused about how a Roth works, and particularly, I think it's a failure that my industry has been happening to too many people over the past years, that financial advisors either A, don't know about Roths, B, they don't care enough to help their clients or the people they're helping with, or C, and this is the most common one, they can't give tax advice, so they don't do it, because when you convert that Roth, you want to know how much in taxes you're going to owe on it. And so some tax professionals, they may talk to people about a Roth conversion, but they're not their investment advisor and they can't help them execute this plan. So you almost need the tax advisor and the investment advisor working together to execute a Roth conversion. And we do that here at Market Advisory Group and Market Tax Services.
So Market Advisory Group is a one-stop shop, concept to completion.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, and we'll often hear people say, I wish I'd found you a long time ago, and gosh, everyone should be doing it this way. And we don't disagree, and that's okay for other investment advisors to do it differently, but I can't tell you how ineffective I would be without the tax department, because again, if you're dealing with the investments, typically people will need that some kind of income stream in retirement. And if I can't speak to the tax side, which I can't because my license is not in taxes, it's in investments, how can someone get that complete advice when maybe they do their taxes on their own online, or they have a tax professional, but their tax professional's never working with the investment team under one roof?
So with Market Advisory Group, if a person brings a portfolio here to have assessed, and let's say they decide to go with Market Advisory Group, then each department, whether it's Medicare or taxes, will work in tandem with the investments.
Absolutely, and our estate planning division, Gerald Eidelman, our estate planning attorney, and I can't I could go on and on all show about how the different stories where people are coming in and talking with us, and we find something that was not on their radar, and it was something that could have cost them a lot of money in the future. You and I were talking before the show started just about the beneficiaries and the estate plan and all those different things, and I've got countless examples on the tax side as well. And taxes are such an an afterthought. Most people don't really pay attention to taxes until it's cost them money. But when you're taking withdrawals from your account, whether it be future RMDs or withdrawals today, those are taxable events, and you want to know what something's going to cost you before it costs you money.
Are people who have never had to take an RMD before sometimes caught off guard by the fact that once they reach a certain age, they have to regardless?
Yeah, that's a great point. Speaking of those stories, I have a gal that I help that lives just on her Social Security, and she treats her IRA as her emergency fund. And she's taken a little small withdrawals here and there out of it, but her past financial advisor took a $10,000 withdrawal out of her account and caused her Social Security to count as 85% as taxable income, and caused some other unfortunate events as well. And when you have to take those withdrawals out at a certain age, oftentimes it's going to be, like you mentioned, a ticking time bomb for tax purposes. And they're going to pay more in income taxes. They're going to pay more taxes potentially on their Social Security. And it could cost them more for their Medicare premiums. And we should probably talk about that after the break. But if you want help with this, feel free to reach out to us at our office. It's 316-252-8707. We'd love to have a complimentary meeting with you. It won't cost you anything. Just come in and have a conversation with our tax team, our investment advisors, our estate planning attorney, and our Medicare advisor.
We'll be back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, welcome back into Eye on Retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with Matt Goolsby. And in our last segment, we talked a little bit about required minimum distributions and the fact that sometimes people are caught off guard by those, not realizing that at some point, Matt, you're going to have to pay money on the taxes. You're going to have to pay money on the 401ks and the stocks and the bonds. And if it's not going in, it'll be when it comes back out. There's a term out there, an acronym called IRMA. Share with us what that is.
So IRMA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and so it has to do with your Medicare premiums. And this is a big one that catches many people off guard. Mainly, it's a failure, again, to the financial advisor that they're working with to not warn them that this is on the horizon. And I think that one day when you have to start taking your RMDs out, it could trigger a lot of people to pay more for their Medicare premiums. So IRMA, again, goes off your income from 2 years ago. And then there's nothing oftentimes you can do about your income there from 2 years ago. Most people are just trying to figure out how to reduce their income taxes when they're filing their tax return from the previous year. But IRMA, again, stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and it could cost you extra money. I'll give you an example. I help a teacher here in the Wichita area. Her name is Marcia. She worked with another financial advisor group before coming to us, and she took a withdrawal to take the grandkids on a trip. And so that withdrawal actually triggered IRMA, but the advisor was not aware of it, didn't tell Marcia to do anything about it. So then she moved her accounts with us, has her taxes done now with Market Tax Services. And she was saying, Matt, why did I get this letter in the mail from the Social Security Administration office that they're going to take about 70 plus bucks a month out of my Social Security check starting in January? So, well, Marcia, bring in the letter. We'll take a look at it together. So me and a CPA sat down in the conference room and we start looking at things. And I say, Marcia, did you take a larger withdrawal than usual? Because between her Social Security and her capers, her pension from being a teacher, she was very close to the IRMA limit already. And the unfortunate thing here is, had that advisor told her to just take about a $300 less withdrawal out, could have saved her almost $800 plus in extra Medicare premiums in 2 years. But I said, Marcia, has your financial advisor ever asked to look at your tax return? She goes, no, my financial advisor's never looked at my tax return. And this is just story after story after story that I could talk about how people that are unaware of things, it can cost them big time.
So I realize this is total speculation on my part, but as far as the other investment advisors that don't bring it up, is it a matter of thriftiness on their part or perhaps lack of knowledge on their part potentially?
Yeah, we could speculate all day long. I mean, maybe some people maybe some advisors are unaware of it. Maybe some advisors just think that that's the individual's responsibility to know, hey, that could cost you more for your Medicare premiums. Maybe that's on you. But I can't stress enough, if you're paying a financial advisor to help you with your retirement, they need to be that guide there to help you navigate, to make sure that you're not stepping in these potholes in the future, or even worse, costing yourself thousands of dollars in either a mistake from either investments, taxes, or estate planning mistakes. And these financial advisors that are not warning people about IRMA, I'm not sure what's going on there, but IRMA is a big thing that when people have to take those RMDs out at a certain age, whether they're 70 and a half, if they turn 70 and a half by the end of 2019, or now the new RMD age is 72, some of these people with $1 million plus in their IRAs today, if that doubles by the time, say, they're 72, their RMD could be north of $70,000, which is going to wreak havoc with this taxation on their Social Security. It's going to wreak havoc with their ordinary income taxes, and they probably will be triggering IRMA and paying more for their Medicare premiums.
And you know, a mistake or an oversight like that, while people are still in their years of earning capacity, is something that can be overcome. But once you're nearing or at retirement age, it's a whole lot harder to recover from a mistake like that.
It is. I mean, when we're young and we're working and contributing to our retirement accounts, ideally we have time on our side. But we will often say in a lot of our classes, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. And if you lose that money, or if you lose it to either a mistake that in taxes, or if you lose it to taxes in general, or if you lose it to market volatility, you don't have that time. That's supposed to be the time that you've prepared and planned to enjoy those years in retirement.
Market Advisory Group is not just another investment firm.
That's true. I mean, we work together as a collaborative team with tax professionals, estate planning professionals, investment advisors, and Medicare team to help you with that collaborative, cohesive plan. I like to say we're transformational advisors. We really help people get that all in one place plan, and we talk together as colleagues and see how we can maybe improve on the situation or maybe save people in the future from an unfortunate situation.
I've heard stories with some people talking about their investment advisors that they hear from them once a year. Did you have a good vacation? How's the dog doing? But never really a review, and never once a mention of anybody wanting to see a tax return to see how they could potentially maximize their taxes so that they're not as imposing.
Yeah, a lot of people will focus on risk in retirement, and that's true. You want to make sure you're controlling risk or have a plan for risk to make sure you're not taking too much in retirement. But taxes, again, I can't stress that enough. They're such an afterthought. And we'll hear people say, well, I didn't owe anything last year on my taxes. I probably shouldn't pay anything this year. Tax laws are always going to be changing. They're never static. And as the Congress is working on ways to pay for their new spending bill, or as Congress is always going to be looking to raise money, that's going to be a threat to someone's retirement as far as tax planning. And if your advisor can't give you tax advice, I ask you, what are you paying them for? Because you can go invest in the market on your own. If you're not helping, or if you're not getting the help from that person to get that overall plan, I can almost bet you a cup of coffee you're going to be missing out on something. So if you want to have a consultation with us, totally complimentary, feel free to reach out to our office at 316-252-8707. We have people standing by to answer those phones right now. Or go to our website, eyeonretirement.com, and you can actually book your consultation right there to meet with an investment advisor, one of our tax professionals, our estate planning attorney, and one of our Medicare teams.
Matt, before we close out this show, I do want to talk just a minute about capital gains, because I think a lot of times, like RMDs, it's so far off in the future for people, they don't really plan for it.
Yeah, and Congress has been talking about changing that. At one point in time, they proposed making the top rate 39+%. For right now, the capital gains rates is 20%, or you could pay 15% or 0%. But that's kind of a cliff there, and a lot of people don't understand how the capital gains system works, and that's okay. That's just another reason why, again, we have the tax department in-house to help people do that. With capital gains, it's on an asset that you've owned longer than 12 months. You can participate in what they typically call a more favorable tax system. And you either pay 0% on it, 15% on all of it, or 20% on all of it. They're talking about making it almost 25%, and we'll see where that shakes out. But what I find a lot of financial advisors are not helping people do is reset their cost basis and maybe take advantage of some of those lower rates, because we've mentioned it, taxes have to go sky high to pay for all these programs and all this money that we've printed over the pandemic.
So again, in-house with Market Advisory Group, you can cover all aspects of the investment, the retirement, the tax liability, and the Medicare.
Yes, and we work with that team, and it's so beneficial to have them all here under one roof, and not someone that I can just refer people to, but have the CPAs come in the conference room and talk about that. Because again, it's got to be planned for. I mean, if you're going along and having all these things happen, and you're going after the fact, that we call that being reactive, and you can't do much when you're being reactive.
Share with our viewers one more time how they can reach you.
Sure. Give us a call at the office, 316-252-8707. We'd love to have a no-cost complimentary review of your situation, or maybe even talk about some things you have concerns with in retirement, or go to our website, Eye on Retirement, and you can book that consultation right there.
I'm Rick Everett. Thank you for joining us on this Eye on Retirement show. We'll be back next week. On behalf of Matt Goolsby from Market Advisory Group, have a great week.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This broadcast is copyrighted by Market Media Network. All rights reserved. Brought to you by Market Advisory Group. Invested in you. Call 316-252-8707. That's 316-252-8707. Or visit marketadvisorygroup.com.